The one point which excludes probably forever the possibility of understanding between Zionist and non-Zionist Jews is the question of Jewish nationality. That is the sticking point. Whoever maintains and believes the Jews are not a nation can never be a Zionist. He cannot join a movement which has as its sole purpose the desire to normalize a people which is living and suffering and so on. He who is convinced to the contrary that the Jews are a people must necessarily become a Zionist, as only the return to their own country can save them, which is save the Jewish nation, which is everywhere hated, persecuted, and oppressed, from physical and intellectual destruction. Well, he and Herzl see that obviously equivalently. Jews, and especially in the West, have completely broken with Judaism in their hearts, and they will probably soon do so openly, all the conversions that we have seen. And if they don't break away, their children or grandchildren were. Disraeli is a perfect example. The people desire to be completely assimilated among their Christian fellow countrymen, and they resent it when other Jews proclaim that they are a people. And so, that is really a big thing. It's still going on today. You might even see it right here on this campus. You probably could even see it in our department, in the Religious Studies department, if you looked carefully. That issue is still on the table. I think it's obvious that the Jews are a people. Whether they want to remain a people is something else. That's the issue today. The Jews are a people like the Japanese are a people, like the Germans consider themselves a people, like you name it, like the Italians consider themselves a people, like even the Mexicans consider themselves a people, though they're made up of a mixture of peoples, obviously. So the Jews are a people. The question is, do they want to remain a people or give up their people? And everyone who comes to America has to face that question, of course. I mean, now there is a Korean nation. If you are a Korean, you can return to Korea. But, you know, a lot of Koreans prefer to become Korean Americans. I mean, the Afro-American is in a much more difficult situation because Africa is a country or continent which has many intrinsic problems that are not easily solved in the present political and social and economic circumstances. Not the least among them is the problem of disease and so on, but also poverty, etc. So Afro-Americans really don't have a big choice to go back to Africa. They really, I think, don't, and the countries of Africa now, the continent of Africa has split up into different countries that they don't have any nationality or connection with. So their problem is much more complex. They really don't have an ability to go back to a country. There are, what, 30 African countries? Again, I raised the issue. Should there be 30 African countries and no Jewish country? I don't think so, frankly. I'm happy that there are 30 African countries. I don't begrudge them anything. But why do they begrudge one Jewish country in the world? That's what I ask. That's what these people are. I mean, it just seems to me, just what the big issue is, I fail to understand, and why people have such a big issue over it. The Jews are ogres, cruel. They want to put people in gas chambers. They want to annihilate people. They want to, no, of course not. They're just trying to survive and defend themselves with a minimum of force possible. They could nuke the whole Middle East if they wanted to. They have the weapons, the missiles, and everything else to do it. And the others don't. They could easily just vaporize whole areas of the Middle East. They don't even think in those terms. So all this anti-Semitic, description of Israel is just ridiculous, preposterous. I know Israel, the people there are not perfect or good or bad, but they don't have any idea to try to be cruel or hateful to anybody. None of them have that aspect of their character. So, I just don't understand what is the big problem. It's just people are making a big problem. It's a kind of Jew baiting again. They're making a big problem, and suddenly there's a Palestinian issue, a people. There never was a Palestinian people before there was an Israel state. Didn't exist, a Palestinian people. They were part of the larger Arab area of Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon. But there wasn't a Palestinian entity as such before the British created it. And there wasn't a Palestinian people. Now we have, all the Palestinians have done is absorb all the Jewish national ideas and applied it to themselves. Great, okay, fine. You have a right to do that. But I mean, in the general, bigger, larger scheme, should there be, I don't know how many Arab countries there are, again, I ask, should there be 21 Arab countries instead of 20, and not one secure Jewish country? Is that what there should be? Yet all the intellectuals of the world seem to think that. All the Noam Chomskys, who himself is Jewish, as usual, the biggest anti-Semites are often the turncoat Jews themselves. And, you know, and there are myriads of these people around who think that no, the Palestinian peasant, his rights must be more important than a people who have been in existence for 3,000 years. The Palestinian peasant's rights are not being undermined by a Jewish state. They're often undermined by his own leadership in other Arab countries who don't give the peasants any rights at all, and mistreat the lower classes in an amazing degree. Look at Iraq. Look at Syria. Even Lebanon, where they just killed the Lebanese Christian leader and so yesterday, or was it today? And that family is a tragic family. And his uncle was killed. He was going to be prime minister of Lebanon, and he was bombed 25 years ago. Now the next descendant in that family is killed. And is there a session in the UN to complain about it? I don't think so. So I mean, what I'm trying to say is that it just amazes me that this thing that we're talking about here is not just obvious. Why is it such a problem? And I think you have to ask yourself. And when you hear people marshal all the intellectual reasons why there shouldn't be a Jewish entity, well, so we should have 20 African countries in Africa? Are there 20 African nationalities or whatever? I don't know the number of African countries. So that is justice? Should there be 25 South American countries? All Spanish-American speaking peoples, mostly Spanish, one Portuguese-speaking area, but mostly Spanish-speaking entities? Should we have an Argentina, Uruguay, Venezuela, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, Guatemala, and so on? People don't question these countries. They just accept them, don't they? Does anyone question them? No, that's fine. And I'm not against them, I don't begrudge them. I only ask, why does everyone accept them and you cannot accept a Jewish state? Ask yourself that question. You know, it really is, that to me, after the Holocaust and what I'm seeing happening in the world at the moment, you know, I sound like a fanatic and crazy person. It just seems bizarre to me. I just do not understand it. Can't. And I will not be able to. Maybe you'll be able to understand it and can explain it to me. Okay. The Zionists on page 244 know they have undertaken a